All right, we can kick off, right? Hope you are still energized and not flooded at all. You know, we are dry and clean over here. So welcome to the panel. My name is Marcin. I'm co-founder of RedStone Oracles and ETH Warsaw. RedStone Oracles is the quickest growing modular oracle on the market. We are the major liquid staking and liquid restaking oracle provider right now, protecting over $2 billion of assets on chain. And we are also very much dedicated to building on top of EigenLayer with restaking and liquid restaking, and are the only oracle that secured a commitment from liquid restaking protocol already with ether.fi, who Mike is over here. Before we jump into the panel, I really would like to give each panelist opportunity to do a short intro about yourself and about your project. So Marin, why don't you start?
Hi, I'm Marin, Master of Protocol Relations, contributing to Lido DAO, a bit over 2 years now. So good opportunity to distinguish Lido DAO and Lido software. So the DAO is an organization, a community by enthusiasts, by node operators, by contributors, developers, and the builders, all having a common goal to decentralize Ethereum and provide very easy and accessible means of staking to users. Essentially, what software does is connecting end users and node operators, so functioning as a middleware on Ethereum blockchain.
Thank you. Mohak?
Hi, all. I'm Mohak. I'm the founder of ClayStack. ClayStack is a modular DVT-based liquid restaking protocol. We have been building for the last 2 years in liquid staking space. And recently enabled our restaking module. Yeah.
Hey everyone, my name is Brian. So I've been working sort of around proof of stake for a long time. I was COO of Tendermint in 2017 and then started Course One in 2018. So we are, one of the main staking providers. So we run infrastructure for around, close to 60 different networks. Work with a lot of VCs, custodians, individuals, and have around, I think, 3.5 billion or something like that that's staked with us.
Nice. OG. Mike?
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Silagadze. I'm founder and CEO of ether.fi. ether.fi is a liquid restaking protocol. And long-term, our goal is to make DeFi easy for everybody.
Sweet. So let's jump into the questions, right? So Marin, let's start with you. Lido is by far the largest player on liquid staking map, providing staked ETH and wrap staked ETH, billions of dollars over there. So with big organization, it's harder to keep up with the innovation. So right now in 2024, liquid restaking is on the race. When do you believe Lido is going to enter liquid restaking, and what is needed for it to happen?
Actually, a good question. So I would kick it off with a segment. It's not hard, it's slower. Why? Because when you're a smaller protocol, you have opportunity to risk. Everyone expects you to risk because you're trying to acquire more markets. You're trying to push out new ideas. You're trying to be different. But when you grow, essentially you have responsibility to stakers. You can't do rash decisions with $30 billion of management of assets being under management of the automated software, right? So it's really, really delicate situation where you need to observe first. Restaking is super cool, super interesting, but it's not battle tested. It essentially launched less than a month ago. So we have the first AVS there. So there are so many unclarities that need to be tick-boxed before established protocols can move in, let's say, all in. But to kind of twist your question a bit, or the answer to it, I wouldn't say Lido is not part of the restaking. When you think about it, there are 17 liquid restaking protocols. 9 of them actually take STETH as deposits and 3 unstake it. But when you take in consideration that 3 of them are not even live yet, it means more than 1/3 of live liquid restaking protocols are engaged with STETH as an underlying asset. So I'd say confidently that Lido is already a big part of the restaking.
Sweet, and we'll be doubling down, so can't wait to see that. Now, Mike, ether.fi is as of today, the biggest liquid restaking protocol by TVL. You attracted over 1 million of ETH, a lot of ETH. And it's the only leading liquid restaking protocol with a token launched yet, as far as I know, at least. So what is going to be your focus in the coming months and quarters, and what kind of trends you foresee right now on liquid restaking, as EigenLayer launched mainnet recently?
That's a big question. I'll talk about a couple of things. So first of all, I think that the category of liquid staking versus restaking is really one category. I don't actually think these are going to be two separate things. I think relatively soon, probably within a year or two, there's just going to be one overall category of staking, and restaking is just going to be table stakes for all of them. There's lots of reasons for that, in particular with the proposal that's going around to change the rewards curve on Ethereum. It's actually not hard to imagine a world where native sort of vanilla staking yield is negative, and all of the yields, all of the rewards are actually coming from restaking, in which case it will make no sense to do vanilla staking. Restaking will be the only thing that actually makes sense. So that's the first thing that I see happening, is I think restaking is just going to become the norm. We're certainly going to see a flood of AVSs, so restaking services that actually provide additional rewards for Ethereum stakers and then accrue value to Ethereum. I think that we're already starting to see that. I mean, there's probably hundreds of teams at this point that are working on restaking services, and I view this as a positive thing. There are even there are now alternative restaking solutions, like Carrick recently launched, and there's a couple others in the works. And I think that's really positive and good for the overall ecosystem. And briefly, what our goal is, we really view staking and restaking as this foundational thing. In some ways, you could sort of kind of think of it as like a savings account. If you're not spending your ETH, you're putting it to work. It's just kind of sitting there and giving you, the native yield of the ecosystem. So we view that as a basis on top of which we plan to build a suite of applications that make DeFi easy for users. And I can talk more about that later on.
Excellent. To give the audience a bit of a sense of what we are talking about, as of today, liquid staking is sitting at $45 billion and liquid restaking at $9 billion. So these are pretty big stakes. And if ETH pumps, goes up, naturally all the derivatives also appreciate in value. So now, Mohak, ClayStack started as LST protocol originally and then moved over to liquid restaking. Can you talk a little bit about this switch, how it went, and then also about the innovation, Modular DVT, that you're building?
Yeah, I think it was a natural evolution. So we launched the liquid staking protocol last year from TOKEN2049 stage only in Singapore. So good timing. So what we have is, what we want to do eventually is, we want to make the core protocol immutable and remain all the modules upgradable. Like, for example, the reason Lido got so much stake, I mean, multiple reasons. But one of them was people felt like this protocol has been battle tested so many times. There have been no upgrades after that. And I think that's the reason Lido will take so much time to go to restaking. So what we want to do is, EigenLayer will have many, many upgrades in the coming days. DVT will have many, many upgrades in coming days, SSV, OBOL. So what we want to do is, we want to create the core protocol immutable and make these modules upgradable so that we can have very fast upgrades and support. So right now, we have 4 modules. One is DVT, second is restaking, third is MEV, and fourth is layer 2. And the evolution was, as I said, it was very natural, and Mike also mentioned. So eventually, I think most of the liquid staking will just move towards restaking.
Excellent. So actually, it's pretty aligned with the future that Mike is kind of anticipating, that liquid staking slowly but steadily might go towards restaking. But we'll see how it's going to play out. So Brian, you're an old hand in operating nodes. Everyone knows that with Chorus one of the biggest brands in the space. You're also a truly crypto G. Can you tell us a little bit how much it differs to operate nodes for liquid staking protocols and liquid restaking protocols, and what challenges do you foresee with liquid restaking truly kicking in? So more diverse, because on liquid staking, everything is the same, kind of like, more and less. But with liquid restaking offers more diversity in terms of applications.
Yeah. So, I mean, liquid staking, it's pretty simple, right? So we were part of Lido, for example, from the start, one of the initial operators. And it's just, people put ETH into Lido, and then it gets staked, and you just run ETH nodes, right? So and it's basically the same for all the, liquid staking protocols, maybe with some differences. But liquid restaking is very different, because there, it's basically the case, you have all of these new AVSs launching, and then for us, there's like an incentive to kind of onboard like as many of them as we can. They will all have like their own tokens, and then as somebody who's holding an LRT or who's directly restaking ETH, let's say with us, then they're going to probably get all these different airdrops and tokens from all these different chains. So it's a very, very different thing. It actually is more similar to what we do across other ecosystems where we have this whole pipeline of we look at different projects, we do some due diligence, we decide, okay, which ones do we want to onboard, and then we onboard it. So it's kind of similar to that. I think some of the challenges around the liquid restaking at the moment is since there's no slashing at the moment, sort of there is no real downside to just onboard like whatever. And also it means that I think the quality is not particularly high in many cases, right? So a lot of the AVSs, from security perspective or maturity, it's all like very rushed, and they're just like, oh, let's just like get it out as fast as we can and figure things out later. So I think that is definitely a challenge to deal with. So we kind of have to balance between, okay, we want to be, fast, and we want to support a lot of things, and because, the people like staking with us, whether that's going to be individuals or LRTs, so that they get the best rewards, while at the same time not compromising, certain quality and certain standards. So, for example, we're not onboarding things that are like closed source, but like many others are, right? So they're basically asking operators to run software they have like no idea what's running. Which doesn't make any sense, right? But yeah, I think it's just also a little bit at the moment this kind of hype and urgency, and people rush a lot of things. But I'm sure over time this is going to improve, and a lot of the standards around AVSs and restaking are going to increase, and then in the end, it's of course it's very attractive, right? It's very attractive if you can earn yield multiple times on the same asset. And so I think there's no question that this is here to stay.
Excellent. So as I hear it well, liquid staking became kind of like a norm when it comes to operating nodes. Not many surprises. But with liquid restaking, we still have to learn how they are going to behave with various AVSs. And for people not familiar, AVS stands for Actively Validated Service, which is a service towards which the restaked value is pushed and basically protects, in a crypto-economic sense, that system. It can be a rollup, it can be an oracle, it can be a bridge, it can be other service. That's the reason we have so much diversity in here. So let's...
Can I actually step in a little bit? I wanted to add a bit about node operations as it relates to restaking. One of the big challenges I see with restaking and operating nodes is at the current kind of moment in time, it pretty much completely boxes out solo stakers. Given the complexity, I mean, running a single node is complicated enough, but if you're now talking about running, 15 different Docker containers on your little dApp node machine that's running on your desk, it becomes close to impossible. Not to mention that like onboarding with every single AVS is extremely complex, and each one is like requires slightly different parameters in terms of how to run it. So I think that's actually people don't seem to talk a lot about that. People talk a lot about the risks related to slashing when it comes to restaking, but there's not enough conversation, I think, around the centralization risk, where effectively, I mean, it's not hard to imagine a world where basically all or a significant portion of Ethereum ends up running in cloud data centers, where, as I said, it completely pushes solo stakers out of the picture. So that's something that we care a lot about, and we're putting some work to try and address that.
Wow, nice. So let's spice it up a bit. I see already some interesting topics.
It's actually addressable through liquid staking tokens. There are protocols that are working heavily, Lido one of them, on actually onboarding additional module, because Lido as well is a modular protocol, to have ultimate scalability. Thousands and thousands of node operators essentially within a module. So when you look at a use case for restaking, you can lend out specific module to the AVSs, right? It can be an operator. So that way you can still maintain the decentralization and not push huge amounts of ETH to known setups of node operators. Like when we start thinking about it, what keeps me up at night actually is the node operation level. And I'm not speaking about Alluvial and their 3 node operators, right? At the end of the day, I'm speaking about the big established protocols that have good sets, but it's limited number of entities that are actually doing the node operations. So we tend to use the same, right? ether.fi, Lido. So you can kind of continue with multiple other liquid staking providers, all utilizing same node operators. So we are kind of a bit stuck there, and we need to figure this, how to push mass decentralizations in terms of node operations. And this renting of modules with community node operators, that might be one very cool use case.
Nice. So actually going forward, coming to the topic about liquid staking becoming restaking. Marin, you as a representative of the biggest staking protocol, liquid staking protocol, do you believe that eventually all liquid staking is going to happen to be liquid restaking?
I don't have a crystal ball, honestly, but it's a thing to be resolved by the market itself. Might be, might not. Why? Because essentially the game will be won by the asset that's a better collateral. And those will be decided on the lending market. But then when you start thinking scaling of collaterals on the lending markets, you need to understand the risk-reward position here. With liquid staking, we now fully know the risks. Right? With liquid restaking, we don't, especially because you inherit all the either native or liquid stake tokens that are under LRTs, right, bundled. You inherit the slashing risks, then you add new ones. Then you add additional conditions which are not automated, they're not on-chain. And problem currently probably will be fixed down the road. It's slashed by a multi-sig. So we have huge trust issues that we need to resolve to be able to scale. And when that's resolved, then it becomes very, very lucrative and scalable in terms of adding a bunch of AVSs, which then will provide good APRs for the restakers. Currently, there was a research conducted by Stakehouse. If all L2s put their sequencer fee profits into the restaking, let's imagine a scenario, they all become AVSs, they all put sequencer fee profits, APR would be 1.5% with the current amount of ETH stake, which is around, am I wrong, around 4,000 now, being restaked. Right? With ether.fi, it's 1.4 million, sorry, and with Eigenlayer total, it's 4 million.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry. So TLDR, a lot of things need to fit in place, and I don't think one will replace the other. To wrap it up, basically, I believe liquid staking tokens and protocols will become primitive that will be utilized into restaking.
Sweet. So like an evolution rather than like leapfrogging.
Yeah.
And then one really interesting feature that people don't talk about is that in restaking, you can actually use other assets than only ETH or staked ETH. Mohak, Brian, do you have any opinion on whether it's a good idea to utilize USDT, Bitcoin, I don't know, maybe some RWA-backed stable coins like Ondo and so for restaking? Do you believe it's a good path forward?
I think like one way to think about restaking is that we are using ETH just as an asset class. But at the same time, it's more than that. We are using their staking contracts. So let's think of like some crazy example, which would not be possible if we were just using it as an asset class. We're sitting in Dubai right now. Let's say tomorrow, Dubai police says that if you deposit $100,000 worth of ETH, it's your ETH, you're earning all the yield on it. But now I'm creating new AVS, which is like, what is AVS? A new consensus layer, right? And then there are rules to this consensus layer which you do not follow, then you get slashed. So let's say the Dubai police says that now you have $100,000 worth of security. You can go anywhere in the world. You can rent any car, any hotel, wherever up to $100,000 worth of security is required, just like go crazy. And if you do not follow the rules of consensus, then we will slash some of that stake, which is like take the withdrawal authority of that stake. So that's like one way to think about it in the current, the way EigenLayer has been built. But eventually, I feel that it will expand to more and more asset classes because yeah, it will not just stay to ETH.
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing special about restaking ETH, right? It could be any asset, and so I think it certainly is going to happen. But I think the interesting question is also like, what exactly are you even doing if you're restaking ETH, or like what kind of security is being provided? Because if there's no slashing, right, then well, there's really nothing at risk. What does this capital all mean? And I think the interesting thing, if you look at the history of proof-of-stake protocols, I'm not aware of any staking protocol that over time increased the severity of their slashing. Like when Cosmos launched, we were like, oh, it's probably going to be maybe 20 or 30%, but we're going to launch with 5% slashing, because it's new and it's sort of unproven, right? Today, it's still at 5%, right? Solana, Anatoly was talking about having 100% slashing, because he was like, oh, it's going to decentralize the stake, because then people are going to not stake with just one provider. But they started with 0, and today it's still at 0. So if you look at EigenLayer, I mean, are they going to even introduce slashing, or like what kind of slashing? Like, who knows, right? And so then I think one other way, on some level, I think a lot of the security also comes from the reputation of the node operators. I mean, in a way, Lido relies on that, right? Because Lido is like, okay, we're going to take like the 30 best known node operators who do a whole bunch of due diligence, and then we have all of those, and we kind of trust that there's that set. They don't have anything at stake, right? Or, like if some node operator gets slashed, then they don't put up collateral for that. So I also wonder if maybe things would go more in that direction, where it's maybe more reputation based. And yeah, I think slashing is a big question, but I think the incentives are from an EigenLayer side. There's not a lot of incentive, I think, to add like slashing, and the AVSs, of course. Do they have an interest to add slashing? Like, I don't think so. So yeah, I'm curious to see how that will evolve.
Super interesting.
Quick question. Can I jump in just
a quick question. How much value has Chorus 1 slashed today, approximately?
Zero.
Zero. You've never slashed?
We've never been slashed. Yeah.
You've never been slashed?
No.
The tragedy of slashing, right? Everybody talks about the risk, about the slashing here and there, but then it turns out no one loses money. Like 0 or 5% with the man. Come on, like what's going on here?
It actually happens. It happened to majority of staking protocols.
Yeah, so how much, that's a follow-up question. How much on Lido was slashed to date, has been slashed to date?
Twice. Always covered, 0 issues to the stakers, right?
So twice, but how much value altogether has been slashed?
I think top of the head, one time it was 64 ETH. The first time it was less.
Right. So approximately 0, right?
Yeah, like 64 ETH for $20-something billion right now. It's truly nothing, like not even peanuts.
Yeah, but issue that Brian kind of surfaced, it's true. And so we are here colliding. For example, Lido protocol, 30+ billion deposits. you can't insure it. No one wants to insure 30 billion. In TradFi, TradTech, no one wants to insure that amount of funds. So there are levers that DAO has to make users whole. Also, node operators, especially good ones, reimburse the users. So but it's still not enough. When we think about scaling Ethereum staking, it's still not enough. So there is a risk. If it happens and a large amount of funds get slashed, there is a risk. It's always good to say, and people need to be aware, regardless that amount compared to what state, it's peanuts, there is risk.
Well, and it's not apples to apples, right? Ethereum slashing, I mean, Ethereum's been, I don't know, almost 10 years old now, 8 years old, robust, battle-tested, versus AVSs that are like 5 minutes old, not robust. So the risk is much higher, I think, objectively. Certainly the variance is a lot higher. So I think there's significant risk there, and it should be taken seriously. I do want to go back to your question about different types of staking assets, because I actually think it is a super interesting question. Thinking about like ETH as a restaking asset versus restaking is the wrong word for it. ETH as a slashable security versus the USDC as a slashable security. What you actually care about is the correlation between the value of that asset that you're using as slashable security and the thing that you're securing. Because if you're securing a bridge that primarily moves around ETH and altcoins and things like that, if let's say ETH goes up 2x and you're primarily using USDC as the slashable security, well, your effective security just dropped by 50%. So you don't want to use USDC, because if ETH goes up or goes down, using ETH is actually the right asset type for most of crypto, actually. On the other hand, if you're doing, I don't know, an escrow service, for some reason you made an escrow service, AVS, that primarily deals in stables, then USDC might actually be the right asset type. So it isn't as simple as just saying, oh, we're just going to support everything, or we're going to support a pool, or whatever. It actually does matter how you match the slashable security to the thing that you're securing. And it's maybe it's a bit of a sort of pedantic kind of academic point, but I actually think it's a good one. Because lots of folks that I've seen seem to be thinking about it in these like very abstract terms, just like, oh yeah, sure, let's restake everything. Whereas really, it actually needs to be a much more kind of curated.
Restake LRTs.
Well, sure. So Carrick is doing that, right?
And then you have a meme of like this astronaut pointing on an astronaut, and then another one, or a Spider-Man pointing on each other, right? Like who's restaking what and what, right? So we can go to many dimensions of that.
Yeah.
Okay, we have 11 minutes left. One thing I just want to also touch upon, and it's an open question to each of you. Ethereum is the king of smart contracts right now. And then on restaking, right now we have EigenLayer, but there's also Karak, and most likely there are going to be other incumbents. Do you have any predictions how it will evolve? Is EigenLayer already set as the ultimate winner of the restaking game, or there is room for others, and why? And yeah, basically, like, what's your take on that? And by the way, I love the EigenLayer team, so sorry to ask that question, but I have to, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're probably the winner. I think they're sufficiently ahead. They're the thought leaders. I mean, I don't know. If I was a betting man, I'd probably say they're going to own most of the market share.
Will ether.fi be on Karak?
So we're already working with the Karak team. I mean, loosely speaking. If they launch a really great product, then for sure, yeah. I mean, we're not trying to sort of pick winners in the space. If there are multiple restaking solutions, we certainly would see ourselves as sort of routing across and load balancing across multiple ones.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be so sure that, I think it's very early, right? And in the end, I think restaking is sort of this, category. But there's a lot of things to be figured out, including the economic incentives, slashing, a lot of things. And I think we're going to see a lot of competition. And what we're also seeing, right, is protocols grow very fast. by using points and a token to incentivize people to adopt it. Of course, that's how EigenLayer got like so much assets in there, but someone else will be able to use the same strategy, and then I think this capital is very mobile and will move very quickly. So, and then I think it's like an interesting question of like, okay, how would you do some maybe restaking protocol that works, across chains, different asset classes, which I don't know if EigenLayer is going to be that one. So I think it's very early, and I think we're going to see a lot of competition, a lot of alternatives, and who knows?
It's definitely a very deep question. Like when you start thinking, scratching on it, it's very expensive to natively restake. So on the other hand, if you have LSTs, you can simply wrap it, and it's much less effort and faster to market. Plus, when you think now currently with EigenLayer, there will be 4 providers. One is in Stealth, you have Kerak, you have Nectar. The Stealth one will be decentralized version of EigenLayer. So there will be market dynamics that will be pushed left and right. We don't know, right? But current grind, current push towards restaking is driven by points, right? Because it's a good way to not dilute tokens by airdrops, but you give points, which you can later convert to just about anything. They do set expectations, though, so there's that. However, it's a really, really good mechanics, and plus when it became stackable, like you earn EigenLayer points, then ether.fi points on top, it's a no-brainer. Like, why would you say no to that? But until the points craze and this bull market mentality is ongoing, we will not have a clear picture how it will result, and how will new liquid restaking, not liquid restaking, but how new restaking protocols affect this, because they will do their own points. They will have their own AVSs, and no one will say no to revenue. Trust me, at no point, right? If it's secure enough, always that risk-reward. If it meets the balance, no one will say no. So it will be very, very interesting market evolution.
I mean, the main thing I heard is you should definitely stake on ether.fi because you earn all these points. That was the main takeaway for me.
Maybe Lido loyalty points.
Mohak?
Yeah, I would say that even though it is early, but at the same time, the value that has been logged on EigenLayer, it's quite substantial to find that escape velocity. Like initially, obviously, we discussed a lot of risk for restaking. For me, I thought like last year that in order for restaking to work, the escape velocity is 10 billion. And to be honest, last year, that was a pipe dream. And then it actually happened. So I feel like in terms of the competitors to restaking or EigenLayer, they have to look at other assets. And for example, now it's happening on Bitcoin, MountsBit, Babylon. So if for other competitors, they have to attract a lot of value from other asset classes to be able to kind of compete. On ETH, I think they are definitely far ahead.
Nice. All right, so we have 5 minutes left. It's 18th April 2024 today. We're going to meet again in a year on another historical thunderstorm and havoc in Dubai and flooding, because it happens every year, right? Whenever token is happening. What is going to be the biggest achievement of yourself as a person or a project by that time, in a year when we meet again?
I don't know. I'd prefer to speak about the project in this sense. So
because some of you might be leaving the project in some time, maybe some alpha there. Like OGs in projects spin up new projects. So I just want to leave room for some interesting ideas here.
Fair. So community staking module, mentally you can imagine it's something similar to Rocket Pool itself, just without the governance token being involved into running nodes. So that will be one large milestone to scale number of node operators. Also dual governance, which will align the stakers and governance token holders because they don't necessarily need to be the same. Other things, sadly, I can't speak yet, but soon, I guess. Something to anticipate from the DAO
Oh, interesting. All right.
For us, we have been working very hard to enable our VFP module, which is validator funding providers. So the goal is that or the challenge that most protocols face when they onboard home stakers is, if you ask for more bond, like let's say 4 ETH bond, probably for crypto bros, that's nothing. But for a home staker, that's a lot of money. So it always hits scalability issues. And if you rely just on professional validators, then it becomes like more and more centralized. So we have this one module where we're going to build a reputation-based model where VFPs can deposit ETH in this pool who are underwriting the bond for different validators. Let's say there is a validator who has been running nodes on testnet for more than a year and has never been slashed, running it very diligently. So creating like combination of clusters of professional DVT clusters of professional validators and home stakers. So the goal in a year would be to have more than 66% of the validators as home stakers.
OK, so I'm going to say a few things. So for us, one big thing is just scaling the number of networks we support. At the moment, there's a lot of things launching. We have like so many protocols approach us like, hey, can you support this? Can you support that? Protocols are like solid and looks good and stuff like that. And
meme coins.
Huh?
Meme coins.
No, meme coins not so much, right? Because we mainly run like staking infrastructure, right? And they're mostly like just token on top of chains. But today I think we support around like 55 different protocols. So I think in a year we want to scale this to maybe to something like 100. So that's one. Another thing is we work a lot with different custodians, institutional partners, and so that's also a big focus for us is to like extend that work and sort of help bring staking more to also integrated into the mainstream financial system and the different types of institutions. So there's a lot of work we do around that. And I would say the third one might be around restaking. So we've also been putting a lot of work into EigenLayer, we're looking at different AVSs, and I think it's just a very new space that's emerging a lot. And so we want to be at the forefront of that and like kind of help shape how that sort of unfolds in a responsible way that will also give the confidence to a large number of sort of crypto holders and including more institutional holders to say, okay, I'm confident to to start restaking and participating in that as well.
Trust. Okay.
So I kind of started off this panel by talking about how our ultimate goal is to make DeFi easy for normal people. And so I'll just talk about that. We started off, and most people know us as a liquid restaking protocol, and that's mainly what we do today. But our medium to long-term goal is to launch a suite of integrated products that make it easy for millions, maybe even billions of users to get onboarded onto crypto. Concretely, what that looks like is starting with our staking product, continuing with our liquid product, which is now the largest DeFi strategy vault in crypto, and then continuing with our cash product. So those three products allow you to save, invest, and spend your money in crypto so that you never have to off-ramp, so that you can fully live in crypto without having to off-ramp to TradFi.
Excellent. Yeah, so we are almost at time. Maybe I'm going to finish also with RedStone. We are super dedicated in implementing restaking in our infrastructure. And in a year, you're going to see RedStone AVS validating all our data that goes through the pipeline. We're already working on that. We did first commits. And within a year, we are going to have a fully fledged product. So thanks a lot for this panel. I think it was super interesting with many good analogies. And let me also take the selfie at the end so that we can spread the thing around. All right. Thanks a lot, guys, and thank you for listening.